Hi, everyone, and welcome to Empowering the Opposition. My name is Lexi Wilson. I'm a licensed master social worker.
And my name is Dr. Nafis Alam, and our topic today will be self-accountability. Lexi, you and I have been talking about accountability, how important it is, and also some alternatives to accountability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think self-accountability is a really interesting topic. We think so much today, in today's times, I guess, about not necessarily about accountability for ourselves and our own actions, but we think a lot and about deterring blame. A lot of times, blaming things on our environments or other people. Mm-hmm. So I thought it would just be an interesting topic for us to explore today.
So do you think that we're so defensive about our own psyches that we would much rather find a way to blame other people and not take accountability so that it can serve as a defense mechanism? Or are there people out there who maybe go too far in one direction or the other direction, and they're overly accountable for things that have nothing to do with them, and that might be a little bit of an issue as well?
Oh, I think it's both. I think, just like with anything, right, that we talk about on this podcast, it depends. I think people can take everything and anything in an extreme direction as humanly possible, right? And we see that all the time. When we're talking about blame and accountability, I think we need to just think about it with an open mind and just understanding that, yeah, people can take things to the extremes, but we're all human, right? We all have times where we try to escape accountability and use, defense mechanisms such as, blame shifting. So that's a very real thing, and we all do it. It's just a matter of being, conscious and aware of what we're doing, and not always trying to escape blame, but being accountable, to ourselves for our own actions.
So what is it that makes us so averse to self-reflection when it comes to negative self-reflection? Do we have a fear of growth? I don't think that can be the case, but do we have a fear of almost coming to the understanding or the realization, painful as it may be, that we are not as much of a finished product as we'd like to believe that we are?
Yeah, I actually really, really like what you're saying there, because I think there's this pressure that, yeah, we do need to be this finished product. We need to be on top of our game. We are our best as we're ever going to be, which is not true, right? Life is a journey, not a destination. And so many of us treat our lives as destinations every single day. And I think we all want to grow, right? We all know that growth is good. However, what gets in the way, right, can be pride, our egos.
Right.
I think egos especially, right? Taking accountability for ourselves and our own, mishappenings means that we have to reflect on ourselves and kind of put our egos in check. And that can be hard because it means that, we have to humble ourselves a little bit. And pride is so much more attractive at times.
Yeah. So I guess if we're empowering the opposition, maybe it's best to not take accountability, because it is a defense mechanism, and it protects you from turning the lens upon yourself and seeing your own flaws. And depending on who you are, there may be listeners out there who are not yet ready to see in themselves what others see in them, whether it's potential to be something great, or having done something, or having the potential to be someone who could potentially be very evil, for example. Some people are just not ready to know their own truth, it would appear, even when it's obvious to everybody else around them.
Yeah, I think, readiness for change is really a huge factor when it comes to self-accountability, right? We have to be ready and willing to be at a place in our lives where we can really reflect on ourselves in the most objective manner possible. And by doing so, that means that, yeah, we do have to try to humble ourselves, but that comes at the cost pushing our ego aside and humbling ourselves. But not everyone's ready for that. I mean, a lot of my life I was not ready for that. And I think it's kind of one of those things that life goes in seasons, right? And some seasons it may be easier for people to reflect upon themselves and their lives than in other seasons.
Yeah, and it depends on the person too, and it depends on the history and their readiness for change, and whether or not they have the strength to see something that may sometimes be uncomfortable. I had an old friend, I don't know why this just came to mind. She was looking at different places to move to, and I might have shared this in a previous podcast, so if this is repetitive, you'll have to excuse me. But one of my friends was looking at places to move to, and she's the type of person to just like place blame on everything else except besides herself.
Yeah, like
and
external factors.
Yeah, external locus of control. And she would always, like, she was very self-aware of that, so she would talk to me about it, and I was like, okay, so when you're moving and like you're looking at places that like hasn't had an earthquake in X amount of years, right? So if you move there and an earthquake happens, then you should try and force yourself to take accountability for having moved to a place where there has been no earthquakes, therefore an earthquake was due.
Yeah.
Versus if you were to move to a place where there are a lot of earthquakes and you were to move there and there's an earthquake, take accountability for the fact that you've moved to a place where there are lots of earthquakes. It's a strange sort of exercise because obviously she has no control over earthquakes, but she does have control over the decisions that she's making.
Yeah.
And the decisions that she's making could put her in positions that she's experiencing things that she might not want to experience. Now, something might happen where, like, in a particular location, an earthquake or a hurricane or a tornado or some kind of natural disaster is due because there hasn't been one for so long.
Yeah.
Or you can move to a place where it just happens all the time, so you can expect it. The idea is around building an internal locus of control where if all you've had has been an external locus of control, then the opposite is what you need to learn. And if all you've had is an internal locus of control, then the opposite then is what you need to learn, an external locus of control. For with her, because she's been operating from an external locus of control for so long, you want to try and force her, kindly and gently, of course, to consider the internal locus of control and take responsibility for things that are clearly not hers to take responsibility for, so that then she can train herself to take accountability for everything that happens to her and happens with her.
With her, yeah. And so let's kind of break these things down a little bit, because these can be some, difficult terms or terms that are kind of misunderstood. So as far as external locus of control, that is considered to be things in your environment, right? Yeah. So things that you can have minimal sort of control over, but not really, right? So like obviously earthquakes is going to be one of those things. You don't have control over earthquakes, obviously, but maybe you have control over the environment, maybe the community you live in, or, things like that outside. Whereas internal locus of control is
like where every decision that you make is based on your own person, and you're not dependent on any other external factors. So the locus of control element is where you're looking as you're making decisions. So an internal locus of control means that the only person that you're trying to make happy is you. An external locus of control means that the only person or persons, I guess, in your environment, only entities you're trying to make happy are outside of yourself. Now, both have pros and both have cons. Now, the way that I define...
Let's break those down.
Yeah, the way that I defined it, it would almost appear as though having an internal locus of control is automatically a good thing. But that's not always the case, because if all you want to do is make yourself happy and live up to your own standards, what if your standards are antisocial? Or illegal or unethical from a societal standpoint? Or inconsiderate or insensitive to the
selfish.
So like that could be a detriment. So, even that positive, as we're empowering the opposition, the internal locus of control, which generally in psychology is heralded as the better locus of control to have. So this way you're not susceptible to external factors.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're not susceptible to anything at all. So
Yeah.
the pro is that you are your own person. You're not going to be negatively or positively impacted by the outside world. But the negative is that you may be not what's best for your community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from an external locus of control standpoint, the pros are that you are very agreeable. You're there to make people happy. You're probably the person in town or the village or wherever you're living where everybody wants to be your friend because they know that you have an open ear to listen to them. You have good advice for them. You want to give them guidance. You take pride in how happy other people are. But then the con of that is that who are you?
Yeah.
If nobody else is there.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point, and I think something I can really relate to. I think a lot of people who tend to lean on the side of, an external locus of control is that they try to find fulfillment and just meaning from, pleasing others. That's kind of where you see the people pleasing tendencies. And that's kind of where they find their meaning, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the opposition to that is, at times people can lose themselves in really just trying to please everyone around them and not really focusing time, for themselves and making decisions solely, for what's best for them, not necessarily what's best for everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, there really are pros and cons to both of these. And I think, it's not like one's better than the other. Really, we kind of need a little bit of both.
Yeah, we do. And if we, absent of one, we wouldn't be able to survive because essentially, especially as social creatures as we are, we're dependent on the other people, but we're also dependent on ourselves. If all we had was an external locus of control, we wouldn't even feed ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we'd be taking food away from other people.
Yeah. So where do you lean more towards, Nifis? External or internal locus?
I think, I think I definitely lean more toward the internal locus of control. And I also think that the answer to your question is going to vary based on
maybe the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like the older I get, the more I have an internal locus of control. So an example that comes to mind, I was just right off the cuff, is that every girl that I've dated recently has mentioned how much they hate long hair and beards.
What?
On men. Yeah. And
are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. It appears that that this is what I'm hearing.
That's so strange.
From the general public, and yet they still want to go out.
Yeah.
Right? They still want to hang out. They still want to spend time with me. Same thing with some of the friends that I've been making here too is there's the beard is just, I'm not with it. What? The hair is just not, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
So it's the interesting thing is that sometimes people don't know what they want. So when I shaved my beard off and I had shorter hair, I found that I was less lower market value, let's say, right?
Yeah.
But then when I grow the beard and the hair out, I have higher market value, but the perception is that I have lower market value. So
weird.
From an external locus of control, even my parents and my cousins and my aunts are like, you look much better when you didn't have a beard and long hair. And maybe that's true, but for some reason, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the way that I'm being treated
is different.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So in the past, you could say that I had more of an external locus of control because I was hesitant on growing out my hair. I was hesitant on growing out my beard because I felt like, people would just judge me in a negative kind of way because they would always say, beards are really dirty, long hair on guys.
I think that's such a weird thing. And I think what's interesting about that is we have this weird perception of it makes sense though, physicality, right? And our different attributes. We care so much about hair and where it's at and if you have it there or not, or how much hair do you have. It's kind of a weird thing,
Yeah.
It's just so strange. And, even with me, I guarantee if I shave my head right now, or if I chopped it really short and dyed it blue, would not have the same market value,
right.
would not have as much interest in me, I guess. Or people would be making some very, very interesting comments.
I think with the blue hair, with the longer hair for guys, for example, and like the beard, I think externally people pick up on that. And like when people tell you that, you know, your blue hair looks weird, or long hair and a beard on a guy, I don't know. When you maintain that, yeah, fine, you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. People pick up on a certain level of confidence that you have.
Authenticity.
Yeah. So like, you know, I'm not, this beard isn't for you. This beard is for me.
Exactly.
You know? So
exactly.
And that's been my response. And like, you know, like if we were together, would you shave your beard? It's like, we just wouldn't be together.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't say that. Okay.
So my gosh.
So it's
Are you kidding me?
No, but like in the past when I had an external locus of control, I'd probably be like, I guess I would consider it, you know.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, like, the older I get, the more I realize that if you have an internal locus of control within reason, where you're not trying to be mean to people intentionally, but you're just living your own life and being who you are unapologetically, people pick up on that. And I don't know if it makes people feel more comfortable being who they are because you're not afraid to be who you are. Yeah. So it gives them the right to do that. Exactly, the permission to do that. Or if it's just the idea that, what's the point of even giving him advice? If he's not going to shave, if he's not going to cut the hair off, I'm not even going to bother telling him, you know, whatever, he looks the way he looks and that's it. So maybe it's either acceptance or permission. Yeah. Either way, it makes people feel more comfortable. It's like the weirdest thing that everything, or not everything, but some of the things that people tell you to do, they actually want, they're essentially shit testing you.
They are, yes.
Yeah, and if you sort of do what they ask you to do, they feel like they have
control over you,
and now they know that you have an external locus of control.
Yes.
But if
and I think external, so this is not only just experience, right? But I think, you know, research also shows this as well, is if you have an external locus of control, you are far more easily manipulated.
Oh yeah.
And that's, I think, just fascinating to me, is like, external and internal locuses of control can be weaponized. They can be, you know, used for things that aren't that great. But yeah, I think that shit testing is such a good example of like, hey, if someone, you know, tells you you don't like the beard or whatever, and you're like, oh God, you don't like it, like, should I shave? You know, they're gonna be like, okay, like, I have this power over you, or whatever. Like, it's bullshit. Like, you know.
And many times shit testing is done and the shit tester doesn't even know that they're doing it. Yeah. So if you call them out, like, you're just like trying to see if I'm going to do what you tell me to do, and they'll be like, no, I'm not.
It's such a subconscious thing, though. I think it is, absolutely.
Yeah, at the conscious level, I don't think that they realize it, but I do it too. You know, and sometimes I don't even pick up on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is absolutely a human thing, and I think what's important is to just like be aware that when we do it, and also to just notice it in others too, because that's not something I've ever really thought about too much until just recently. And it absolutely, a lot of people do it, and you just have to know when they're doing it, why they're doing it, and how to handle it.
And sometimes they don't even know that they're doing it. And
I think one of the most freeing things in the world too is just like, when someone has a very solid internal locus of control, and let's say, you know, they do have some external locus as well, but if they have a solid internal locus of control, nothing anyone says is going to matter, because at the end of the day, the person they're trying to please and make happy is themselves, right? Yeah. And so I think sometimes that can piss people off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not concerned about being agreeable, and sort of playing to the crowd, and you're just in it for your own happiness, other people might see it as, well, you're not prioritizing anyone's happiness but your own. Yeah. Which isn't an incorrect statement to make.
But it's not a bad statement, and it's not a good statement either. Like, it's neither, because you need both. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty self-aware in the fact I know I have a lot of external locus of control. And that's something that I'm actively changing and working on changing in myself. To understand that, like, this is something that I need to be more comfortable in, be less agreeable, you know, be okay with exactly like how I am as I am now. Because yeah, absolutely. Like this kind of stuff is totally real.
Yeah. I mean, I think, having an internal locus of control is almost always celebrated. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. But, being that we are about empowering the opposition, how can we paint an external locus of control in a truly positive light instead of being patronizing to it? And I'm thinking that having an external locus of control generally can mean that if you are someone with a great deal of power and you are surrounded by people who have the best interest of the overall community in mind, then you could be sort of like a very good person, very good civilian for your community. So if you're in power because of money or because of politics, whatever it might be, and you've got people in your ear who are good people who are concerned with the wellness of that particular community, they might ask you, hey, listen, the roads are really bad, lots of potholes, like you've got the clout, like I'm just saying, like, we really need to
help us out here.
So, and then that external locus of control could mean that for the benefit of your community, you've listened to your trusted advisors to use your power to better the community. I think most successful politicians, likable politicians, tend often to have an external locus of control. Some are way too overboard with it, where they'll just say whatever their constituents want them to say.
I feel like it can be it can be very fake.
Yeah, it can be.
But it can also be very powerful and very genuine.
Yeah. So like, a lot of politicians, a lot of people pleasers, anyone who's a people pleaser would be more of an external locus of control person. So, there is something positive to be said about that. And listen, I think the most positive thing that you can say about someone with an external locus of control is that you are never going to be short on friends. Never going to be short on friends. If you're a people pleaser, and hopefully you're not being taken advantage of, right? But like if you're a people pleaser,
but they often are.
Well, they often are. But like, you're always going to get someone calling you, hey, this happened. I just need someone to talk to, and you're just there to
someone
listen.
Who's going to drop everything and go and
exactly. Yeah. So you're always going to have friends with an external locus of control, and that cannot be discounted. Speaking as someone who has 4 or 5 friends here, period, in Boise, so like I could use a little bit more external locus of control, I suppose. But it's valuable in that sense, and if you have a lot of friends, you could build a great network.
Oh, absolutely.
And by building that great network, you might have a friend who wants to then help you out and put you in a position of power, or, advance your career, let's say, or, hook you up with his sister and you guys get married or something like that. That could happen. That networking happens because of an external locus of control. People with an internal locus of control tend often to struggle with networking, tend often to struggle with making friends, tend often to even sometimes consider other people's feelings, So while the majority of academic literature will celebrate an internal locus of control at the detriment of an external locus of control, we cannot get into the habit of just, being any other podcast or academic whatever, and not consider what the opposing viewpoints are. And the opposing viewpoint is that there is value in having friends. There is value in being social. There is value in being agreeable.
Absolutely. I think there is a lot of value, and there's a place for those kind of people. And as someone who does understand that I have an predominantly external locus of control, that's what led me to be a social worker. Helping others helps to give my life meaning and gives me happiness, right? But I think once people kind of push that too far, or give and give and give, or when you have too much external locus of control, that's when you, like you said earlier, you lose yourself in that process. And so, it's very interesting. And then when we kind of tie in here self-accountability with internal and external locus of control, that's what gets really interesting as well, right? I think people who lean more towards the internal locus of control, right? They're going to blame themselves. They're probably harder on themselves than probably anyone else.
Yeah.
Really only focusing on themselves. And then when you have people who have an external locus of control, blame shifting, right? That's probably more predominant with those with external locus of control.
Yeah.
Is what I would, gather anyway.
Yeah, and there's safety there in being able to blame others. It might be one of the reasons why an external locus of control is sort of valued, in that if all you're doing is what other people are asking you to do, then you can't be at fault for doing the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think when we look around us right now, everything is blame shifted, no matter what it is. Nobody wants to take accountability for really anything. And so when we see that around us in our broader society, how difficult is it for us to just turn the lens in on ourselves and take our own accountability?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's very difficult to get there, but once you've gotten there, it's difficult. It's like a habit, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a good habit is just as difficult to break as a bad habit.
Yeah.
So if you're used to taking responsibility for things, then it's going to feel awkward to not do it all of a sudden.
So it's something that we should all practice.
Should we? Or should we empower the opposition and say that we shouldn't practice it?
Yeah.
How is accountability, like we've talked about how accountability is a good thing, high character, morality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How can we talk about accountability through the lens of empowering the opposition in such a way that we're considering opposing viewpoints of that?
I think when we're opposing, our own accountability, it can save our pride and our egos, like we had mentioned earlier. But my question is why? Biologically, when we think about ourselves as humans, why would that be important to kind of skip over that accountability and protect our egos and ourselves? And I mean, I don't know how accurate this is, but I mean, if I'm thinking tribally, like humans thousands of years ago, why that would be important? Maybe you do need a strong leader, in your clan. You need someone who's going to make difficult decisions. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, it is perceived as weakness when people will take accountability for things that have happened to them or around them, rather than, blaming it on the, opposing tribe or, which could be much easier. So I guess my point to that would be it's perceived as weak. And so by not being accountable, it can be perceived as strength. Yeah,
it could be. There's also an old saying, I think I might be butchering it, and when I say old, it's just from my family and stuff like that, so it might not be
a real saying.
Generally accepted. But the saying goes you can't build a boat in the rain.
I've never heard that.
Okay.
But I like it though. It's good.
So the idea is that by protecting yourself from blame, being in a shed, let's say, you're able to build a boat that can deal with water. So essentially, by blame shifting and by not taking accountability, you're protecting yourself just long enough to build enough strength to be able to protect yourself moving forward, right? So you can't build a boat in the rain, meaning that you find a shed, it's raining, but you're still protected from the rain. And as you're building that boat, that rain isn't impacting you. So you get a chance to develop that boat.
Yeah.
And when the boat is ready to go, you take it out in the water. It might be raining, but you're still able to deal with it because you were protected long enough to be able to develop a product in this example. And other examples would be your own psyche to be able to deal with the hate. Because I think especially, from a developmental standpoint, it's very important for children to master not getting blamed, not taking responsibility. This way they see themselves as the superhero of their own stories, and they're able to excel through the developmental stages because they're not stuck on their failures.
Yeah, they have to have this certain level of confidence. And we do see that, with children. I used to work at a preschool during my undergrad, and, they're all so confident. They're not thinking about what's what they did wrong that day or anything like that. They're not dwelling on that or ruminating on it like a lot of adults do. They're so on to the next thing, and they have these beautiful confidences that, I wish us as adults could have.
I'm reminded of a story with one of my little cousins who I was babysitting, and never asked me to babysit. I'm terrible at it. But I was babysitting her, and I think she was about, I would say maybe like 4 years old-ish. And we were playing this game called crocodile golf. So you put the head of a crocodile in any part of the room, and you just try to hit the golf ball into the crocodile's head. And I'm like, I play some golf, and my short game is pretty good. And I don't care how old you are, I'm happy to destroy you in any sport. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's golf.
Let's go.
So she goes first. I want her to go first because it's her house. I'm babysitting her at her house, and I also want to see how the carpet plays. So I have a little bit of an advantage over my 4-year-old little cousin.
Oh my gosh!
So she goes first. She gets the ball sort of close to the crocodile's head, and then I line it up. I go for it. I wish I could tell you that I got it into the crocodile's mouth, but I didn't. But I got it much closer than she did. So after this happened, I was rising up triumphant, and she said, I win. I'm like, what do you mean you win? Like, I got it much closer, so I get
You're
the
like
tape
arguing with her.
I'm all about winning, right? So I find a tape measure, I show that my ball is closer to the crocodile than your ball, and she's like, no, whoever gets it further away from the head is the winner. So I was like, all right, your house, your rules, fine. Now I know. So the next shot, she goes first again. She gets it sort of close to the crocodile's head. I pitch the ball, or rather chip the ball into a different room, and I'm like, I got this. I'm so far away from the crocodile's head. She says what?
I win.
Yep. And then I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh my
I not my proudest moment, because I did curse out a child.
That's so funny.
And, I'm like, how is this possible? And she was like, no, this time, whoever gets it closer is the winner. So I'm like, no, you have to establish the rules before you go. She's
kind of genius.
She is. She gets under my skin still to this day.
To this day.
Yeah, so...
How old is she now?
She is 12 now?
Oh
13?
my gosh, yeah.
So she, her level of confidence was such that she couldn't lose. If I got it closer, then the goal was to get it further.
Yeah.
If I got it further, then the goal was to get it closer. And she didn't think this out. She wasn't like scheming to,
it was just off the cuff.
She wasn't trying to ruin my day. She just happened to do it, right? So she just unintentionally ruined my day.
That's hilarious.
But that's the level of confidence that I wish some adults had. That no matter what I do, I know I'm going to win.
Yep.
And that's the mentality that she had. Now, for her at her developmental stage, it's very important that she feels that way.
Yeah.
Because that allows her to carry that confidence onto homework, onto ballet, onto
everything.
She's into music and stuff like that. So
we are taught to doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not taught to be confident in ourselves. We're just taught to be not confident.
Yeah. Because we're born confident in ourselves.
Yeah, it's natural. It's a natural thing. Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it is. Now I'm kind of heated. My blood's boiling. I still remember
You're like,
that day.
I gotta win this golf game.
I think she was 4 years old. I won.
I don't know.
In my mind.
I think she won.
No.
She won you at the brain game you didn't even know you were playing.
She did. And I cursed this kid out.
Oh my god!
And the thing was, she knew me from the time she was born.
Yeah.
So, I guess I have that kind of behavior, I suppose, where I'm just the weirdo of the family or friends group, I should say. So she just looked at me as I was cursing her out, and she just she said the one thing that you should never say to someone who's having an episode.
Calm down.
She said, "Are you done?"
No.
Which guaranteed one thing. I wasn't done.
Nope, you were not done. No, but this just reminds me, when I've heard that before in my life, or what is it? Or are you done yet? Or what's the other one? There's a common one.
It's calm down.
Calm down. Don't ever whatever man decided to tell a woman to calm down was the stupidest human in the planet, and that it's just not happening. Like, that's a great way to just be like, I am not calm.
Yeah, it's true.
I will not be calm for a while.
Yeah, it's so true. But I mean, yeah, she, from this particular concept, right? It makes sense to have that internal locus of control that is on steroids, that accountability to self and confidence to yourself. In such a way that you just feel like you cannot fail, because it allows you to build that boat outside of the rain, so that when you do take it out, you're able to survive whatever conditions you deal with. And the world is a cruel place.
Yes.
So, you do have to have a tough layer of skin to be able to just, cope with day-to-day things.
Yeah.
But you'd have to learn how to develop that. You're not born with that tough skin. So I think like all these conflicts and back and forth, going between an external locus of control through certain developmental stages, back into an internal locus of control, back to an external locus of control. And then once you reach adulthood, you sort of have experience with both extremes. And now you're able to make a conscious decision
which way you're going to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like it's never really been a conscious thought, even for me, until like 24 years old, almost 25. Like, it's something I've never really given much thought to until now. So I'm hoping, others will benefit from this conversation as well, and thinking about the pros and cons of both of these.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing is that you just stay genuine. We talk about accountability. We talk about locus of control. Don't try to be someone that you're not, because while you're trying to be that person is probably trying to be you. So, and they'll never tell you that, just like you'd never tell them that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what's so funny is that, like, you were mentioning hair prior to starting the podcast. And, it was just for a fleeting moment, I thought to myself, people with curly hair try to straighten their hair.
Yes.
And people with straight hair try to, curl up their hair.
Oh,
make
that's
their hair
such a
curly.
that's such a good example. Like, I mean, even for myself, like in middle school, I remember this kid, and he was like, you will never have a boyfriend with curly hair. And oh my gosh, that was like my first, like, probably real experience, a couple of first real experiences with like external locus of control. And then it went kind of internal. And so, what did I do? I wanted to straighten my hair, and I'd never thought about it until someone had pointed it out. So I did that for a couple of years, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is like this beautiful hair that my mother gave me, and like it makes me unique, and it's just like a part of like who I am. And so I think it's interesting. Like, authenticity is so important and so powerful, and why live a life that we're trying to be something we're not, right?
Yeah.
I think like at the same time too, though, we're all growing too. Like, I recognize things in myself that I want to like change and be accountable for, as we all, to some extent do. So it's about being authentic, but also realizing, we can grow a little too.
Yeah. Grow the way that you feel like you should be growing, not in the way that
others are telling you to.
Exactly.
Or should be.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, more likely, you'll never know how many people are silently wishing that they were you. Because like, just like you would probably not tell, the friend that you admire most that you wish you were like, you'd probably never tell them that, but like secretly you're like, you wish that you could be like them, be as tall as them, be as big as them, as strong as them, or whatever it might be. So like, and meanwhile that friend of yours might be thinking to themselves, I wish I was as smart as him. Or like everybody just wants to be someone else, and it's just like this weird weave, or web, I should say, of lies, essentially. So like, if you really want to be different, just be yourself.
It's like the simplest thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Authenticity is such a gift, and I think people can really see right through it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would rather have an authentically like jerk, than someone who's just kind of shallow, a shallow friend.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
agree.
I mean? Like, I'd rather have a total jerk friend who's just authentic than a very shallow, like,
this is a saying that hopefully you've heard. Maybe it's not just in my family, but the idea is that An ugly truth is better than a beautiful lie. Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Dr. Nafis Alam.
And I'm Lexi Wilson, a licensed master social worker. This has been Empowering the Opposition. See you next time.